Also in the chat, there's one comment saying, talk a bit slower.
Oh, there is a lot of info.
Guys, if you can hear it, great.
It is profitable. Okay.
Why were questions deleted from the AMA?
Yeah,
Now we should be fine,
okay,
right?
cool.
Oh boy. What a start. We very
For those of you who are seeing us for the first time, I'm Vishnu. I'm the founder and CEO of Ente. And it's been almost a year since we did our last community AMA.
we very
The same office in Bangalore, although it's a little bigger than it was the last year. It's almost doubled in size as a team. And yeah, it's nice to be here, like talking to you folks again, and we'll try to be useful over the next 30-40 minutes. And today I'm joined by Chetan and Lawrence, who are a better fit to answer some of your questions. So, like, if you guys want to throw.
we very
Hi guys. Yeah, I've been working for Ente now about close to years, slightly lesser than a year. Mostly looking at product and growth here and working with Vishnu to sort of make sure we grow Ente to the best of our capabilities. So yeah, Lawrence from
we very Hi guys, I'm Lawrence. I was also there at the last AMA, which was only a few months, I think, after I joined, because I joined a little longer than a year ago. I'm mainly work on the ML side of things. I'm mostly on mobile also. And yeah, still really happy to be here in Bangalore, and things are going really well with Ente. So I'm really enjoying it here. And yeah, so a little setup, little explanation about how we're going to do this AMA. I will be reading all of the questions here from my laptop, and I'll also keep track of the chat. So the idea is that, yeah, I'll read the question, which we have all written down. Then one of us will answer the question, then we move on to the next. Then at the end, we'll see if there's some time for questions from the chat. And also if there's like a really question that is very related to the question we just answered, maybe we'll plop it in or something. We'll see how it goes. Let's just be a bit spontaneous. Someone is asking also now if this will be recorded.
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. Okay, that said, I think let's just start and see how it goes. So the first question is pretty simple. Is Ente profitable currently?
Yeah, great question to start with. Yes, it is profitable. I started drawing reasonable salary sometime in January this year, and so it's just like really great. And this is actually the best state that we've been in. I think Setal has that low clarity with respect to numbers and stuff, but this is undoubtedly the best state that we've been in as a company. And this has taken us longer than I expected to get this far. But at the same time, it's been a bit of a long and unconventional journey for us as a consumer app that is fully open source and without any venture backing. So we've had to kind of do this in a very sustainable way. So I keep telling myself that it's okay that we've taken 5 years to get here, because what is more important is to make sure that we are here for the next 50 or 100 years. So that means that by we're bringing him in, we can't really relax or take the foot off the pedal, because there is a lot of work left to make sure that we are going to be here for a very, very long time.
Yeah, makes sense. So I think short answer is yes, I guess. Short answer is yes. Great answer still. Don't get me wrong. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Is the new free plan sustainable? There have been a lot of increases, like permanent free plan, and now doubling it also with referrals. Yeah, and also referrals now work for the free plan. So yeah, is that sustainable?
Right. Yes, it is sustainable. Although in the short term, it really hurt our profit margins a bit, and only a bit because we have changed how the free plan is structured. It was earlier we were giving 3 replicas for every photo we were uploading. Now we have changed it to just a single replica. But yes, we will take a small hit, but we think it's good for the long term, because this will make Ente accessible to a lot more folks who would have otherwise not even looked at Ente as an option. Because I mean, if you think about a 10 GB of storage is fine for a small library of photos, and the hope is that these folks will upgrade at some point in the future, because while 10 GB is fine for small libraries, as you settle down in life, you kind of run out of it. And the idea is that we'll be around when these folks settling down, and then it will be there, and in the long run, it won't really hurt us. So yeah, again, long answer short, yes, this is a sustainable move for us to make at this point.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So what new features or improvements can we expect from Ente in 2025?
Hey, I'll take that.
Yeah.
In general, I think where Ente is at right now is from a perspective of a good photo backup services. I think we are offering a lot of features, ML, like memories and faces that we launched recently, video support, backup, and stuff like that. I think for each of those features, where we are at is almost sort of 80% there. On each of these features, we now need to sort of work on improving them. I mean, generally, I think the AMA also has a lot of questions around some of these, but for example, how do we improve our face clustering better, improve our face clustering? How do we do deduplication on top of ML? How do our memories basically work? Or basically show you better quality of memory so that you can rediscover your photos. Core performance is, for example, another area. Can we improve our syncing further? Can we improve our app performance? Videos, for example, like we support video upload and video playback. The experience is not really great, and that's why we are working on streaming. So album organization, I think, is one of the most often requested sort of features. While there is basic organization that is there, I think nested album, nested tags, more advanced organization methods, sorting order, etc. are still areas that we need to work on. So one big theme for this year is going to be whatever features that we have delivered so far, how do we take them to the next level? And yeah, so all of those features come in. And there are a couple of new areas that we want to work on. One is around making sharing much better. I think both from a perspective of a sharer who's sort of sharing a photo with his family or friends, but also from a consumption standpoint. How do I make the experience of receiving photo very joyful? Which is, I think, what Vishnu also talked about in his blog when he talked about feed. The other area is basically local gallery. We want, now that we have cracked a lot of computation on device, I think it's only fair that people can use it without an account, only on device as a gallery product. And those are sort of broader areas that we need to work on. We're also running into some challenges, I think, as in when we sort of look and to add new features, what we are realizing is that our UX design systems and our core systems needs to be worked on, needs to be improved, changed dramatically. And so that will end up taking up some amount of time. And plus, I mean, it's an endless roadmap at this point in time. There are generally too many things to do than there is time in the year for us. So I think prioritization is also something that I think there are some things that we will work on, some things that we won't. I think we'll cover a lot of these when we get to next questions, the next questions in the AMA. But yeah, that's sort of largely what we are thinking of in 2025.
Yes, a lot of plans.
Yes.
Not slowing down at all. So yeah, talking about plans, are you planning to publish a roadmap also?
Yeah, so I mean, this again is, at least for the Discord, it's an often requested sort of a thing that why don't you publish a roadmap? And to be honest, I think we have had multiple discussions internally as well. I think the thought process currently is that there are pros and cons of basically publishing a roadmap. I think the two most important thing that we get out of publishing a public roadmap is basically accountability, that we are basically accountable to our customers, that we will deliver on all of the things that we promised. And then there is, of course, transparency, that current customers, prospective customers should know about what we are working on. I think accountability in general, I don't think is a problem within the team. I think the team is very accountable to to all our customers. They respond very well in Discord. In general, are working to improve the product on a day-to-day basis. From a transparency perspective, I think where we are at is where we want to be. We are as transparent as possible on, especially on the roadmap discussions within the Discord server itself. However, there are also a lot of cons of doing this. I think what ends up happening when publishing a roadmap to a larger sort of customer base is that most customers essentially look for features that they want, which leads to two outcomes. One, from a business perspective, the prioritization between customer needs and what the business needs sort of goes a little hunky-dory. It's not exactly perfect, and it leads to a lot of arguments and discussion on why this feature is prioritized over this features. 20 people are talking about I want this feature, versus 50 people talking about I want this other feature. I don't think that is the right way to prioritize, and just publishing a roadmap basically gets us into all of these unnecessary areas and discussion. The other thing is that it also, once we publish a roadmap, we are making a commitment that we will deliver this by so on and so timeline, which is an unnecessary pressure on the team right now. And given we are a small team, I don't think it is the right time to basically put that pressure on team. Another con is that I think we are at a stage where we need to be very, very agile in terms of changing our plans, especially a little bit. So can we reprioritize, for example, let's say when we were working on V1, Lawrence started working on memories, but we also realized that we could work on widget. And that sort of flexibility allows us to basically pick up widget immediately rather than pushing it to what our plan was, which was second half of the year. So I think because of all of these reasons, we are currently not at a place where we would want to publish a roadmap. That is at least the internal consensus that we have built so far.
Got it. That makes sense. So if people still want some glimpse of what's next, maybe it's GitHub discussions and or else in Discord basically.
Yeah, Discord. I think we are very fairly transparent on roadmap questions on Discord, and we're happy to answer.
It's not like we're secretive or anything, but like you said, for all of those reasons, we will.
Yeah, I don't want to put it publicly out. Yeah.
Got it. The next question is, I love the faces feature, but the face clustering needs to get a lot better. Thank you. Thank you for the very direct feedback. Much appreciated. Feedback is always appreciated. I'll take this question because I worked on this feature basically. So I agree. It can be a lot better, and we actually have plans to make it better, to improve it further this year. Definitely this year we'll work on it. The thing is, it's quite a hard technical problem for several reasons. First off, there's no real, when it comes to clustering, there isn't really a ground truth to evaluate against. So that makes it very hard and painful to do experiments and find out what works and what doesn't. Because it will also really differ per photo library, basically, per user. And another thing, what we kind of need, why we're still waiting for doing all of this, is we need faster matrix multiplication. Basically, we need a vector DB. Now, I don't want to get too much into the details of what that means, but we are working on that. We will add that soon. And once we are there, then we can revisit clustering. And to come back to your question, definitely planned for this year, but it's not an easy thing to do. But definitely, we agree. So next question is then very short. Archive people when? So I guess what the question is, can we hide certain people? And this is already possible. I'm not sure, maybe we misunderstood the question, but this is already possible. If you go inside the people section, as long as the person is still unnamed, there should be an option in the top right menu to ignore a person, and then that will just archive that person. So it should be already there. And then next question is, will you add the ability to search faces from within a public link? Yes, this is something definitely we want to offer at some point. But the simple answer is that right now it's not really the highest priority. There's a lot of other stuff which we want to do first, some of which we already discussed, some of which we'll still get to. Definitely we'll do this at some point, but not right now. I think right now there are more pressing things. And then another question, sorry, we kind of bundled together a lot of the face-related questions. I think this is the last one, and then we'll get back to other types of questions, is will we get the ability to automatically share photos with a certain face with another Ente user? Yes, definitely. This is something we've already had discussions on, and definitely something we want to implement. I think it will come after those clustering improvements that I mentioned earlier, because that makes more sense to offer it after that. So timeline-wise, it's a bit of a rough timeline, but hopefully towards the end of this year, we would like to offer this, but definitely on the table. Definitely. But let's go back to some feature-related questions. First one is, also planned a security audit by accredited firm in 2025.
Probably not a 2025, because not much has changed since the last time we were audited. And so which means that at this point, audit to just be a marketing exercise of sorts. And audits are not cheap, but it's a very expensive marketing exercise. And the bigger concern is that while the audit goes on, it actually takes the best of our team out of feature shipping mode, because you actually have to work with the reviewers while they're reviewing the code. And that is not something we're really looking forward to at this point. And so basically it does not make a lot of sense right now to invest in an audit right now, but I think early 2026 is where it will make a little more sense, because by that there are a couple of things that we've planned where it would make sense for us to get the architecture and code re-audited. So 2026 is what we're looking at.
Makes sense. there's been a lot of chatter about new products, Locker, Contacts. I think there were several more. Do you have any plans to work on another product outside of photos? And if so, when can we expect it to release?
See, the short answer is that no, we don't have any plans right now to step outside of photos. But at the same time, we understand the gravity of these problems because we ourselves face it, like especially with Locker, because it's not really a dry use case that I am personally looking at. I have maybe 10, 20 dogs that I would like my wife to get when I'm not around. So Locker coupled with legacy makes a lot of sense for me. Contacts is another one, which wherein we are completely on the same page with the community that it could actually be a very useful product to have. But at the same time, historically, we've done this. Like Auth was a product that we shipped simply because of personal need. And it's taken around 2 years to actually polish the product and to a point where we are happy with it. And even now we spend like 50% of our support bandwidth on it. So it's not sufficient to just ship the MVP. There is constant maintenance and level of polishing and improvements that keep on going. And like it's also important to us that we provide a high quality of support at the end of the day. So now the problem is that we don't really have the bandwidth to start a new thread and deliver that level of polish and support. Now, another way to look at it, which I have personally been thinking about, is to actually publish an SDK for Ente so that we don't really have to maintain these projects. Somebody can, for example, Contacts is actually a fairly simple app to ship. If somebody else could ship it on top of Ente, and they could just be the underlying platform and they could take care of the maintenance, that would be an interesting path forward, but that's a different conversation. And but again, see, we totally understand the point, right? Because even from a business perspective, there are reasons why we would venture into a new area, that because we have saturated the market for the current product, which I don't think we have. I think we've barely touched like 1% of folks we could actually serve with photos. And the other angle is to actually improve awareness so that more folks run into Ente because there is a different need that we were solving for them, which is potentially possible with both Contacts and Locker. But then I come back to that point about bandwidth, that we don't really have enough bandwidth to step outside photos, because even this whole area, there are a lot of questions around what is LinkedIn one photos, right? So given that, it would not be very smart for us to do anything but focus on photos. Actually, we have bandwidth, and I think we'll have bandwidth sometime next year. And that is when we'll probably look at this again.
Got it. So for, this year we'll just focus on photos because there's so much to do. But in the longer run, it's definitely something that makes sense for us to do at some point again, and very open to that.
Okay.
Next question is then a features question again. When will nested albums? This one has been asked so many times, I think, also in the
Discord.
Yeah. So let's do it one more time properly.
Yeah, I think we are planning to ship it this year, mostly in the second half of the year. And sorry to be vague about the timelines, but I currently don't have any data points to give you a more specific timeline rather than more than second half of the year, basically. The reason for that is there are basically challenges around this, I think. And like I was saying earlier, I think our UX design system is sort of close to a point where it cannot support further features. And nested album is basically one of them where we have to substantially change our UX design to support that. The other problem is that nested albums is one of those things we'll have to do both on desktop and mobile, as well as it sort of impacts our import processes, export processes. So the feature itself touches so many surfaces that we need to be taking a lot of time and figuring out that it makes sense from an implementation perspective, also from a UX perspective. There are also challenges around the core architecture as well that we need to work on. So in general, it is an area being worked on, but because it is such a large feature for us to ship, it is going to take a bit of time. But I can definitely tell you it's coming this year in the second half. And as and when we get more clarity, I think we'll publish it on the server as well.
Sure. Next question. Can you add a duplicate detector by AI, not just by metadata? Yes, this is something definitely also planned for this year. And if anything, hopefully like first half of this year, that is kind of the plan. Most of the infrastructure to do this is actually already there. The only thing that's missing is, again, the vector DB that I talked of earlier that we are currently working on. So basically, as soon as we have that, I think we'll be able to ship this fairly quickly. Then there was actually another question around deduplication, which is hard for me to read, but I think...
I'll take it.
Yeah, okay.
The question is, can we see more information when deleting duplicates? Some photos have the wrong timestamps. I think I'll look into the issue around wrong timestamps and then what is causing that and see if we can have a quick fix. in general, I personally also am not very happy with the UX of the deduplication feature. I also think it doesn't scale when we get to the ML bit and basically have similar images clustering as well. So for now, we are keeping it as is, except for small bug fixes. I think once Lawrence works his magic and make sure that we have a better duplicate detection, we will also rework the UX so that in general, the entire process of cleaning up your photos, similar images, blurry photos, etc., all of that is a little better. So yeah, I mean, work in progress.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, then we switch back for features to something completely really different. If Proton knocked on Ente's door, would Ente agree to an acquisition, assuming that Ente stays the same like earlier acquisitions? And then there are similar questions actually. If we have also, aside from acquisitions, have we also considered any kind of partnerships with other privacy-focused companies? And there was also a question of someone asking, just please help Proton with their Photos app. So there's a lot of questions around this. Vishnu, do you want to?
Yeah, let's take them one by one. Let's see, in terms of acquisition, the short answer is no, we're not looking to get acquired. To give some context, I started Ente because one, I did not want to work for somebody else. I had a hard time working for somebody else. And secondly, I also did not want to work at a big company. And so the kind of company we're trying to build out of Ente is different and a certain level of vision for it. And now Proton, unfortunately, is someone else and is also a big company. So it's not something we're really looking forward to at this point. And also from the impact perspective, I feel what the impact that they can have as an independent company is significantly higher than what it could have if it were to actually get absorbed into Proton. And yes, so this is how I feel about it right now. But maybe tomorrow I'll feel differently. But at least the last 5 years, my thought process has been similar. And right now, also, I feel the same way that acquisition is not the right way to phase the game at this point.
So acquisitions is basically, not more.
Also not the most interesting thing you can do in our life cycle.
Partnerships?
Partnerships is, we have not actually looked into it, right? It's, but there is this sense of worry that if you end up getting a partner who's driving majority of your business, like in the case of says, I actually don't know what scale Proton is operating at, but if you would actually get a really large partner, we could at some point end up being a glorified consultancy company for that particular partners. And maybe this worry is unfounded, right? I don't know. I haven't really explored this, and maybe it makes sense to explore, right? But I guess what answer is we have not really looked into it.
Right.
And that last bit about helping Proton make a better Photos app. See, again, we don't work for Proton, we don't work with Proton. But what we are working on is building a local gallery, like Seth mentioned earlier, so that you can get all of your machine-learning goodies, like features like face recognition or semantic search or memories, without actually having to back up your data to Ente. So what this means is that theoretically, you could just use Ente for photos from Photos experience, and it's a different service, be it Proton or be it someone else for backups. And this is the best that we can do to help the privacy ecosystem, Proton or be it whoever else. I think that's the best we can do.
Got it. Yeah, that'll be very exciting, was I say. Also in the chat, there's one comment saying, talk a bit slower. Guys, we're good at building. We're not that good at talking, so you have to excuse us a little bit. We'll try to talk slower.
Oh, that is a lot of efforts.
We'll try, we'll try. But yeah, we will record this also. It really goes too fast, I guess. If it's your question, you can watch it back at slower speeds also. But we'll try. Okay, next question is, can you please add the ability to add locations by searching for them?
I think there's another related question is what I think is really important is the ability to see cities without manually adding them. Honestly, I think I have been personally complaining about the location and map systems since the day I came in and started using the app more actively. In general, there are a lot of UX workflow issues. So that is one part of the problem. For example, ability to add locations by searching for them. It should be something that should be there in the app. So some of them we try to fix with the UX redesign that we talked about. However, the larger problem around location is basically, in an ideal scenario, what we would want to do is basically have some way to pull a really large and dense data set of locations. The problem with that is, one, if it's hosted on somebody else's server, it is not particularly privacy friendly. Currently, the way we are sort of doing this is basically there's a JSON file locally, which has some location information, and we use that to resolve GPS coordinates. If we want better quality location, that means a denser data set, which also then brings its own set of challenges around how big of a JSON will you have to download to basically serve all the different use cases that are there around locations. So this is definitely a problem that we are thinking about. Especially around sort of more locations and more density of location. We'll figure something out once we start spending time on it. It is something that we'll start researching towards the end of this year, and therefore mostly should come out by early next year. Is what our current plan is. But again, I mean, to be fairly honest, I think these are big timelines, and there is some amount of variance that can happen as well. So short answer, basically UX changes, etc. We'll work on with UX redesign. But the more denser maps and better quality location detection is something that will happen probably by early next year.
Got it. And then next question is, can I add holidays from other countries?
Yeah, so I mean, currently we don't have the capability to do this, but honestly, there's a very very valid suggestions. There is no way that we can cover all the holidays across countries, across different cultures within the same countries. There are multiple holidays in the world that are not even based on Gregorian calendars. So yeah, I mean, it's a valid request. We don't support it right now. There is also some discussions around how do we think of the moments feature, which basically displays this holidays and how do we sort of take it forward. I think the current consensus within the team is that we merge it with memories, so that photos from holidays around that period basically appear really well with the calendarized system. So we know when Christmas is or when, let's say, Thanksgiving is and so on and so forth. And those can appear in the memories section on its own. In general, I think with respect to memories, with respect to some of these things, there is a lot of work to be done. And there are a lot of other items that we are thinking of at this point in time. This is a little lower priority for us right now, but we'll definitely look into this. And whenever we do, we'll make sure that you have an ability to basically edit holidays into your own calendar so that you can customize it according to you. Maybe, like, for example, at birthdays as well, we can have anything at a people level, but probably do it at a calendar level as well. So a lot of important dates. Dates are actually very, very important from various perspectives. So the more information we have on that in Chapter, I think it's great for rediscovering old photos. Yeah. So as I said, great suggestion, but not high priority right now. We'll look into it as when we can.
Yeah, makes sense. Next one, and I don't know if it's really a question or more of a support ticket kind of thing, but I'll still read it. I have hundreds of videos, even though I kept my phone on for 2 days. It still hasn't processed all the videos for streaming. Is there a way to make this process better?
Yeah, so I mean, in general, this is definitely not the expected behavior. So if the person who asked this question is watching this, it would be great if you can send the logs. You would definitely want to investigate why that is happening. In general, I think video processing, video downloading, the entire process of basically making streaming work is very expensive in terms of compute and is therefore slow as well. We have to download a large video, then decode it, then compress it, then re-encode it, and then upload it back again to our system to make everything work. And there is encryption as well. I remember writing a long answer a few days back about Discord around this as well and why this is very, very expensive. In general, how we want to sort of move forward is that most of the processing we think should be happening on the desktop. Mobile should ideally be a fallback in case something fails on desktop or something is you don't have a desktop app to basically with high compute capacity, etc. And should only be used to process small videos that are already on device. So you don't have to download and therefore you end up saving some time. The other thing we are also want to do is basically do that video processing in the background rather than when the app is open so that you don't have to keep the app open for a long period of time to basically get your video ready to be streamed. All of this is actually currently work in progress. The beta is not there yet and therefore these kind of issues are still coming up. But when we are out of beta, we should be in a much better state in terms of processing videos and then also playback of videos on across multiple devices. So
tricky stuff, but
yeah,
once we get up beta, it's work in progress. Okay, what measures has Ente taken to ensure that privacy remains a focus and that Ente has a future looking at new skin?
See, if you've followed our storyline so far, you would know very much that privacy is in our DNA as a company, because the amount of engineering effort it takes to pull off what we've pulled off is non-trivial. And also there is certain risk averseness since we've operated, right? Like, I mean, who gives 3 replicas at this point? Like they've been doing that like very early on. And also I mentioned about how I've gone about like for over 5 years without a salary as a founder, and it's actually a really bad flex, right? But at the same time, it also reflects some of the risk averseness that we have internally as a company. And if I were to look at Skiff specifically, right, it's I have spoken to Andrew, and I don't generally have a problem with VC, but I think for a founder that's raising funds, it's important to be aware of the fund cycles and how they can actually impact your customers. Because when you're in the early stage, the expectation is that you will kind of give what 100x return in 7 to 12 years, because 7 to 12 years is what typically funds are operating at. And at a later stage, the expectation reduces to a 10x or something. And so when you're actually building a company with a larger time frame, again, it depends on the kind of company that you're building, right? So I can't talk much for Skiff, but at least with Ente, we've like not taken any venture capital. And even right now, we're discouraging any conversation with venture VCs, because what we want to build is a multi-generational company, and that is longer than typical fund cycles. So I'm not sure if that answers your question directly, but at least what I would like to say is the perspective you're building is very different from how Skiff has gone about building. And so I'm looking at this in the about for audience.
Yes, yeah, makes sense. Very different way of doing things. Next question. When my friends upload to Ente using the public link, locations often don't upload, even if all the other metadata does upload.
Yeah, so I mean,
Another second
question. We should have Jay to answer. I think there are a couple of potential reasons for this. I mean, when you upload from Safari, it basically removes the location metadata before uploading. So the web app basically doesn't receive any location metadata, so we can't really do anything about it. The other reason could potentially be that, I mean, a lot of phone cameras basically have locations turned off by default, and therefore when the photo was taken, it wasn't stored with the other metadata that particular photo had. So if you can check if it's any of these two reasons, I think that would explain it. If not, please write to us at support, and we definitely want to look if something else is causing this. So I mean, one, if you want to.
No, the only case that I'm very aware of is Safari. Last case wherein if you upload items from Safari, they actually took the location metadata. And in all of these cases, there is nothing much we can do, but there is something you can do, which is to invite your friend over to Ente.
Yeah. So basically, the app is going to be much more seamless compared to web. So plus 10 GB free now. So please.
Yeah. Good arguments. Next question. Hello. Are there any news regarding tax rework? It is indicated as early 2025.
Yeah, I mean, this has similar kind of problems that I talked about with nested albums. I think the UX design, the need to work parallelly on desktop and go by the import-export problem, all of that, I think, is something that is delaying this a little bit. But yeah, we are planning to start work on this again towards the end of this year. When the app redesign work is completed, then we'll sort of also start incorporating some of these features as well. So yeah, not early 2025, but towards the end of the year is definitely something we're making.
God. Next question. The new curated memories feature is neat, and I appreciate the work that went into it. However, could there be an option to turn it off? I prefer just to see X years ago instead of things like before thinking. Yeah, sure. This is actually a pretty easy change for us to make, because we still have also basically the new memories feature relies a lot on ML. So just in case the user hasn't enabled ML, we still have the backup of the old memories feature. So we can actually make that change pretty easily, because we still have that old one there as well. And then I think there was another question. yeah, someone asking also about memories, if we can show not just 1 year ago, but also 6 months, 1 month, 1 week. Yeah, we'll think about it. I think in general, we're gonna keep working on memories. There's a lot to iterate on still. We're not nearly done. We're gonna make so many more improvements to it. So this is definitely something we'll consider. We'll see. Next question. Again, we go away from features to more politics related, I guess. What do you think about the buy from EU trend? How is it impacting your business given Ente is US based?
Right. So, see, generally, we're a political industry company. And personally, for me, that I don't believe in borders. I think it's a very abstract concept that makes governance easier and maybe helps politicians be important about themselves. I mean, I still feel that the existence of borders kind of concept, how we still have a lot of evolving left to do as a society, that state borders and anyway, let's not get into that. But I do understand the value. I mean, I understand why you might want to hold on to certain principles and align with certain value systems that they believe in, because at the end of the day, I want the world to be more like me and you want the world to be more like you. And like if you look at things from Ente's perspective, right, for those of you who don't know, Ente is currently headquartered in the US, and it's primarily because it's incredibly easy to run a fully remote internet company based in the US, because it's a very tried and tested route and there are very little unknowns. And then we have a dev center in India, which is also a very tried and tested route. And EU in general is very special to us. EU is where Ente was born, and EU is where a lot of our best customers are from. And our own data centers are in the EU. There are a lot of policies and ethos that I believe it's exactly how EU looks at things. And even in the future, that we were talking about how we will start up our own, spin up our own data center actually sometime in 2027 maybe, and that will again be in the EU. So a physical presence in Europe is inevitable, but it's just that you don't see a point in rushing into it, at least not right now.
Yeah.
As a business, I don't think it's hurt us right now. I don't see customers leaving us because we are not like registered in the EU. And yeah, but like, yeah, that's very
Yeah, and I think in general, yeah, like you already mentioned, we're already like have a very special connection with the EU, and I think hopefully that will get even closer once we actually get that second headquarter in Amsterdam, Netherlands, hopefully somewhere in the EU. So it'll be nice soon. I would like that. Not that I'm not enjoying also India, don't get me wrong, but yeah, for the rest, I think, well, I think now I'm just echoing some of your perspectives, but I also think like while it makes sense to stand your ground with certain, when it comes to certain value systems and stuff, I also think you have to be careful not to completely break down cooperation between different countries and between different continents and like put up our own walls and like everyone has to do everything themselves and make things very inefficient and very unfriendly that way. I think, yeah, the world was, I don't want to get too political, but quite beautiful and we could all cooperate across the world, and let's try to keep it that way also a little bit. Yeah, cool. Not enough politics. Let's move on. Is Ente working on a magic eraser type of feature that we see in Google Photos? Short answer is no, we're not working on that. Mainly because we still have a lot of other things to work on, especially like, now I'm just listing them in terms of ML. There's OCR, there's the ML-based dedupe that we talked about, pattern recognition, improving the face clustering, memories has to be improved. There's a lot of stuff related to ML that we want to do first that we think is more high impact. Also, it's quite a hard feature to pull off fully locally because the models for this are on the larger side of things. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to take a lot of work, and maybe also the longer we defer it, actually models will get smaller and it will become easier. So once we get to it, it'll actually be a lot more doable. But yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll have to start off on desktop and then work our way towards it. And there's also a sentimental angle to it, which is that at least personally, I don't really like to use this feature because I want my photos to be real. But yeah, then again, if enough users want this, obviously we will implement it as simple as that really. So yeah, no time soon, but at some point we'll have to get to it. Next question is Ente planning on adding more photo editing options? So yeah, Google Photos has a lot of these options, and at least according to this user, Ente is quite basic right now.
Yeah, I think the simple answer is not at this point in time. I think we have already talked about so many things that we need to do. I think editing is not in that list at this point in time, but maybe next year. We do realize that our editing capabilities are fairly basic and there is some amount of improvement that we can do there. But again, definitely not for this year.
Got it. Okay, so there's a question now. Will you add proper support for raw files, including DNG? Previews are black and images appear black and white when they're open.
Yeah, so this, when we, I think, started thinking about what are we going to do this year, I think this definitely came up and this is definitely part of this year's plan. But from the looks of it and then how things are sort of, I mean, the more we were working this year, the more things are coming into work in as well. So most likely this will overflow into early next year. In general, like I said, there are actually too many things to do, and there is some level of prioritization that we have to do in terms of what helps a large portion of our customer base. I know raw and DHG is a very specific sort of use case, more catered towards a more professional use case. In general, that is an area that we want to work on. But again, like we definitely start working on it this year, but release will mostly work on the next day.
Got it. And actually, there was a question, now that we're talking about file formats, there was a question in chat also about implementing JPEG XL. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Now might be the right time to share.
There is an open thread on it.
Yeah.
I don't think Flutter supports it natively right now. And in an ideal scenario, we shouldn't have to do anything to support it. It should just, if the underlying platform supports it, it should just work out of the box.
Yeah.
And this is my understanding of the issue. And
Got it. So basically, we're waiting for Flutter to implement. They should ideally be the ones to implement. And
right. And there is an open thread there. I think Chromium has recently made some changes to support this. So which means our desktop app can actually start rendering this well. And it's actually very interesting format. I don't know if you guys have actually looked at it. Like how they about it is actually very, very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's not entirely in our hands, so I can't really commit to any timelines for this.
It's optimistic.
But yeah, we share the enthusiasm.
Yes, we share the enthusiasm, but waiting for Flutter mainly. Yeah. Okay, then we move to the next question. Is there any plan to support import option using CLI? It will be useful for importing of large files from Google Photos Takeout when there's no space in the desktop app to roll back up.
Like the short answer is not right now. We're not looking at building a CLI right now because so if you have thought about Ente's clients are actually really smart. We do all the processing on client. So be it thumbnail generation, be it video processing, be it all the machine learning. So now if you were to introduce a new client, the engineering effort to build it and to maintain it would actually be quite high. And with something like CLI, there is also this angle around abuse mitigation because we are essentially giving you something programmable where you can just throw data at us. So there is certain level of abuse mitigation we'll have to add to our own infrastructure to make sure that we can kind of handle all of this. So the short answer is not right now because they actually going to put abuse even the last week we were kind of just dealing with botnet attacks. Right? And I'm hoping that none of you guys are actually running into issues because we've still maintained our availability, but it does take a toll on us. It is expensive. And if you're listening, whoever it is that's running, please stop. Right? You're hurting us. Right? And if you're a company that's trying to do the right thing, so yeah, be kind. That's all.
Got it. Do you plan we plan offering a lifetime plan?
No, right? Like because see, lifetime plans are unsustainable. Bandwidth and storage have both recurring costs, and I think this is something I've repeated a lot of times. And I don't want whoever will end up taking over Ente from me to carry the burden of me having dished out some 2 TV plans to like hundreds of customers just to raise capital in the short term. So I don't think lifetime plans is a great idea for a company like Ente.
Got it. Good chance. Okay, that was a question about AI. I'll take this one. Even it's also more of a support ticket kind of thing, I guess. Even when only one photo is uploaded on Android, it often takes over 12 hours for the AI to analyze it. Ideally, this shouldn't be the case, so maybe you should really reach out to support. And if so, send logs, please. One thing, having said that, I'll explain a little bit about how the AI system currently works. So in order to make sure that your experience while using the app is not hampered by jank or any other kind of lag, the AI is not continuously running. Instead, we're always checking when is the optimal time to run. And when it's the optimal time to run, then we will analyze whatever needs to be analyzed. So what might end up happening is if you really use the app a lot when you open it, it might take a while for that optimal moment for AI to come in. And usually for most users, this is fine because eventually everything will be analyzed. But if you really feel like I want it analyzed now, one tip I can give is just leave the app open for a while, for just a little while without touching it. And then naturally the AI will spring into place and start analyzing. But if that doesn't happen, please reach out for support. Yeah, let's move on. Can you please bring back the favorites widget? I really liked it. You can have the ability to choose from multiple widgets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are planning to add. We were planning to add some settings to customize what content you want in your widget. I think memories is one, favorites is another. In general, some albums, etc. And in some future, we can have like certain people coming in, or certain other ML-based system coming in as well. So this is definitely something that we want to do quickly. We'll also explore the multiple widgets and if that is easier, both from customer perspective as well as implementation perspective to do compared to, let's say, widget settings. But yeah, this is something that should be coming out soon.
God. Next question is quite funny. Why were questions deleted from the AMA?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of you got a chance to look at those questions that were deleted. It's basically responses from one person in the live ask dashboard, basically, that we went through. It was a 20-message rant, and there was actually no question at all. And I think that wasn't the problem. The bigger problem was that I think that person was basically upvoting his own rant messages and getting it to the top. So a lot of relevant questions were getting hidden down. And I mean, that the person was spamming. I don't think we have any other choice than to moderate that out. I would love to share screenshots of.
Yeah, if you guys want to see screenshot, we can share a screenshot.
Lots of ranting happened on the other questions. Not unfair ranting, but like you can't spam.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we didn't really have a choice there. Next question is, how is the progress on removing the 4 GB file size limit?
Yeah, this will definitely happen once video streaming is out of beta. I think currently all hands on basically making sure video streaming works fine. I think once we do that, I think the idea is that we work on removing the 4 GB file size limit. Should happen towards the end of this quarter or early next quarter.
Got it. Any plans for performance improvements in the Ember?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general there are a couple of people in the team who are extensively working on improving performance. I think this is also part of us going into the local gallery direction where the performance needs to be top notch for us to actually compete with any other gallery product. So yeah, I mean, team is working on it as we speak.
Yes. And talking about that team, how big is that team now, and are there any plans for hiring?
There are 12 of us full-time right now, working on Ente, kind of an even split between engineering and product design, support and marketing. Well, not actually the even split, right? So there are 6 of us on engineering, and the other 6 basically look at other functions. And right now we're at a good spot in terms of the size and the vibe of the team. So we're not looking at expanding right now, but at the end of the year, I think we'll have to add more folks specifically to engineering, design, and support. The volume support has gone up quite a bit over the past couple of months. So yeah, no, not expanding right now, but soon.
Got it. What is the reason that you chose to make the free plan, to increase the free plan instead of reducing the price for the paid plans? Because both measures would reduce revenue in one way or another.
Not exactly, right? Because see, the paid plans are right now priced at as low as it can be for our scale right now. And with the new free plan, like we discussed already, like we've brought 2 replicas. So the kit of the profit margin is not that high. So this assumption is incorrect.
Right. And also, the free plan also brings in money, right? So
Yes.
It's also
So the long run, it should actually be.
it doesn't really reduce revenue necessarily. In fact, should be the opposite.
Correct.
In the longer run,
Right.
which we are like well aligned to play that longer game.
Right.
Okay, next question is a bit odd. I'll be honest. Is there any plan to open your S3 stores for people with self-hosted instances and bringing down prices for everyone?
See, we could. So one is we don't own the S3 store already. We are a front end for 3 other cloud service providers. We could expose this as a single API, but that would end up being as expensive, or in fact even more expensive, because you would have to perform additional keeping as well. And the whole point of self-hosting was so that you could completely own the infrastructure end to end. And if you wanted Ente to be involved at some point, you would just be better subscriber to our cloud. So subscribe.
Yeah, just if you want us to host, then subscribe. That is kind of the answer. Any plans to update web UI? Example, it takes few clicks to upload the upload progress status. That's too many.
See, to be honest, on web and desktop, the focus is largely to catch up with mobile. I think there are a bunch of things that we have shipped that web still has to do, particularly, for example, hierarchical search, video streaming, like we were talking about out of in beta right now, and a lot of work on desktop sort of needs to be done there. The other part is, I think, from an organization, album organization, photo organization perspective, we think desktop plays a key role, like we were talking about for nested albums and then nested tags, etc. So in general, there is a lot of work to do on desktop itself without getting into major design changes at this point in time. There would be some workflow improvements that we can do, especially around albums like I talked about, right? And photo viewing, etc. There was going to be some workflow improvements there. But in general, I don't expect any major system design or UX design changes to make all the workflows a lot better. I think that will happen mostly next year when we sort of have much more focus on desktop and mobile is in a more mature sort of a stage. That's sort of broadly. For this particular thing, I think, I think upload progress status, I could imagine, is not a very highly used item. So 3 clicks is fine. But some of the other things like add to albums, create albums, etc., are workflows that we would definitely want to head over.
Got it. Then there's a question about the free plan. There's one replica for the free plan. And so what happens to my data if the database fails?
So there's already the risk that you're running into with most cloud providers outside of big tech. It is the only one that I know who's keeping 3 copies, right? So if you're actually risk averse and if you want more redundancy, like upgrade to a paid plan.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
Yeah, it is kind of as simple as Then there's a question in Spanish. My Spanish is not that good, so I want to read it out loud, but I'll read the translation. The app doesn't have two-way sync with your phone, and it's very cumbersome to have 2 different backups and not know which one is the correct one. Any changes you make aren't saved on both. Not really a question, but basically, I guess the question is: will the 2-sync, will we add that, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think at this point in time, our thought is that we don't want to do 2-way sync. In general, it is incredibly it's tricky and sort of hard to get right. From an implementation perspective, the other thing is that I think the confusion doesn't end if we do 2-way sync instead of backup. It is just shifting from one place to the other. For example, like if I am using 2 galleries, I would expect if I delete from one gallery, I would expect that, okay, Ente has it backed up, but then with the 2-way sync, it's deleted in both places. So, I mean, in general, I don't think it eliminates confusion at all. I think the direction we want to go towards is basically we want our customers to use Ente as their primary photo backup app as well as their gallery app. So you don't need to use 2 backups or 2 apps to cause this confusion. And while we are not there yet, I think we'll get there sooner rather than later. And the idea, like I said, you should not have a reason to use 2 different gallery products or 2 different backup apps or a different gallery product and a backup app, etc. So that is the direction that we think would solve that problem rather than basically 2-way sync. That is not something that we want to do at this point.
Got it. Next question. Any plan for opening an AI API for Ente for integration with third party? And then especially they're interested in MCP, the model context protocol. Correct, and not mistaken. Yes, plans or at least ideas, thoughts, yes. I have been thinking about this for quite some time. I would personally really like to introduce an API because I think it will open up a lot of cool use cases. For instance, I was talking to one user who really wanted to have an API just to export all the AI data that we've kind of already created. And then I think there's like endless possibilities of what you can do with that. And yeah, then there's also the use case like this where basically someone just wants MCP so that they can have like their external AI agent access some of their photos. So while we find all of that very cool, I don't think we'll add any of this anytime soon just because, yeah, there's so many things which you already discussed which you want to do first. And this is kind of a developer feature also at that. So it's not like most users will not use this actually. So that's why it's not prioritized as highly. But I'm sure at some point we'll get too excited and we'll want to implement this. Yeah. Then there's another interesting question, which I don't know if it's really a question, but I'll still figure it out. Basically more of a suggestion where we should increase free storage to 15 GB or more and enable file sharing for users and remove the upload size limits. And then the question, I guess, is what our thoughts are on that.
Right. So in terms of free storage rate, I'm using 15 GB. If you invite your friends, you can get 20 GB. So I would say we're one-upping Google there.
Yeah.
And in terms of enabling file sharing, it's important to note that it is private, not anonymous. So there is a certain level of abuse that we are limiting by limiting sharing for free users. And this is something that is unlikely to change in the near future. And as a removing upload size limit, I think Chetan already covered this, right? It will be removed.
God, yes. Okay, next question. I recently downloaded the Windows software from your official website, and unfortunately, it appears to contain malware. Is that the case?
This comes up, I think, every 3 months in some of our community. See, this is honestly a way for Microsoft to earn money through developers. They will mark something as malware because of absence of a signing certificate that is officially given by Microsoft. And then Microsoft will basically ask you for money for that signing certificate. So it's with them detecting certain software as malware is basically a revenue stream for them. Having said that, we do want to buy that signing certificate so that this problem doesn't occur. I think it's very important if we want to grow to a wider audience. The problem that is there right now is that we would be eligible to buy it directly from Microsoft sometime around June, which is when we will look into it and then try to solve this problem. There are resellers that also do this, but it is more expensive and there are certain other conditions to that as well. I think it's better we go through this via Microsoft and then do it when we are eligible in May, June. So this is definitely top of our list. We're just waiting to meet the guidelines that Microsoft have and then we'll solve that problem.
Yeah. To be clear, no malware. That's
yes. Nothing changes in terms of the software.
Yeah,
we pay a fee to Microsoft to basically not.
Yeah, not be difficult. That's okay. Then next question: is there a plan to make a local-first application on desktop to avoid having to stream from the cloud when having a large SSD? This application can still sync with the cloud to access content on phone.
Yeah. So this is, I think, a great suggestion. I mean, in general, we have certain philosophical view in terms of how we want the desktop app should be, how we want the desktop app to be. It should not be an exact replica of what the mobile app is. In general, we want it to be local first. We want to have want the desktop app to have advanced organization options, screenshot management, a lot of things that are very similar to what Picasa used to do back in the day. However, this year our focus is on making sure that the local gallery use case is working really great on mobile. And then I think we'll look into desktop being local first next year, along with some of the other things that I talked about in terms of where we want to take the desktop app. So that's largely, in general, the way we are approaching is we are currently a mobile first sort of building mobile first and then desktop sort of catches up to it. I think once we get to a point towards the end of the year when mobile is fairly mature, we can think about desktop being a great product on that particular platform rather than a replication of the mobile.
Got it. But first focused on the local gallery on mobile. Yeah. Okay. I think we're coming to the end, right?
Yeah.
This is the last question of the submitted questions. Maybe afterwards there's a few questions also in chat. I guess we can do those also, but let's first finish with this one. Are there any plans to promote Ente more? I know a lot of people would love the service, but have never heard of it.
Guys, so it's been less than a year since I've moved out of vegetarian product into marketing. So and there is a lot to do when we're still learning as a company. And the fact is, the more folks that use Ente, the more we can grow as a company, the more we can do for you. So like it's best that we actually grow. And while we get better at marketing, what you could do is help us by talking about Ente to folks. Like I just mentioned, like actually would love the service, but I never heard of it. Ready to actually help a lot of us. And yeah, that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, that's all the submitted questions. I think if we still have some time and energy, I think
we can.
Let's give some
more questions.
yeah, there are some questions, not too many, but there are some questions. Some we already answered, like in between. There's one person asking about an optional option to compress photos when uploading them. Does that?
Yeah, it's been on our roadmap for a while. So the problem with compression right now is that there is no clear way to write the original metadata back into the file. So, and this is actually something that Google also does, which is that if I click a photo, let's say in 2010, and if I were to compress it, it loses that timestamp for the matter, for example, all the location data. Now, the experience we want you to have with Ente is that if you download the photo or if you export the data at some point, you at least want to give that metadata back, because whenever you click photos, it's very strongly associated to the time that it was clicked at or the location where it was clicked. So right now we haven't really found a clean workaround for this. As and when we do, we will definitely look into this.
Got it. Then a question around pricing. If we'll offer purchasing power parity pricing, so I guess that means regional pricing, right?
No, right? Because see, the underlying services that we are using, we end up having to pay in euros and USD. So it'll not be feasible for us to like undercut them or like offer regional pricing anywhere else.
Yeah, that's just not feasible.
Right.
And then someone is asking if we have any plans on, or actually they're asking how much do you plan on maintaining and improving Auth?
See, we're definitely maintaining Auth. Like you'll be surprised by the number of support requests that we have to respond to. Like we have a very small support team, right? And the engineers actually do support. Like we rotate and we provide support. So support, definitely we are on it. Maintenance, we are on it. In terms of improving, we feel that there are not a lot of critical features that will substantially improve the product experience. So if there is something that you guys very, very desperately want, please let us know. Signing the app is one of those things. Apart from that, we've not had very strong feedback from the community. But if there is something that all of you think we should definitely be adding to Auth, please just let us know and we'll figure it.
Right. And then someone is asking any thoughts on video recognition, if we can see it this year. I guess that's for me. I don't know, to be very honest. I think it's not the biggest. First of all, I think it's not the biggest bang for the buck in terms of our time right now. The other features that we already talked about, also in terms of ML, are going to be more useful for the users, because I think for most people it's not ideal the way we just take it. So right now we just take the thumbnail. Well, it's not ideal. Most people this is fine. So yeah, there's other stuff to focus on. Then this is also quite tricky on how to do this, because since we're doing everything locally, this becomes quite an intense operation to do if the video is very long, and then you need to find some algorithm or some method of choosing which frames to take, and it's a very non-trivial issue. So I don't think
similar issues to video streaming, right?
Yeah,
you have to download, process, extract thumbnails.
No, I think the good thing is that we are now building a pipeline for processes, videos, and frames in general.
And then we can sort of plug in and
start. Right, like we can basically take every 10 seconds and like extract.
Right.
There are workarounds, but it's something we pick up like this.
Yeah, that I don't know, but we'll pick it up at some point.
Right.
That's for sure. Someone is asking how valuable the word metadata is for us. I don't really know what that question means.
See, if it's about do we, I mean, I feel metadata is basically data. Right? There is a lot of information you get derived out of your photos or out of anybody by just looking. Like if you were to look at metadata of my, let's say, contacts or chat history. I don't really need my chats to know who I am or who I'm chatting with or like who's a meaningful connection for me. So metadata is definitely meaningful from that perspective. If it's about how we value metadata within Ente, it's a lot, right? We preserve it, we buy it, they give us, we return it as it is. So at least I think it's a very, very rich source of information.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Next question. I think we're halfway through the chat questions, by the way.
Yeah.
Not too many questions, but there's a few left, and then we got everything, I think. So someone is asking, since we're a private company, we don't have to disclose everything. How is Ente doing in terms of investments? Are there any investments going into Ente right now? Is there anything to disclose from our side?
See, nothing really is going on right now. Again, like we said, we've not raised any venture capital. Early on, with some of our friends friends and family basically, and some founders and some community members as well, who've actually invested of sorts. But the team basically still owns 95+%, if I remember correctly. So basically, the company is still very much ours. And in terms of VC, like I said before, we're not really looking at it because we see a very steady path for growth and to actually make into a big company. I don't think at this point we need venture capital at least. So yeah,
doing good, but nothing to report. Then I think there are 3 more questions left. Which one? Oh yeah, this one. Is Ente currently planning to distribute its apps through more sources? So they're specifically mentioning photos and Auth on Crescent. I'm not too familiar with that, but
right.
you know.
Oh yeah. So we have spoken to a question.
Yeah.
And see, the problem with any of these extra channels is that it takes engineering bandwidth, and not a lot of these are automated, right? For example, right now, our release workflow for Play Store and F-Droid is simple. That we just trigger a GitHub action and it does a bunch of things. And we're already distributing, for example, on Android, we're distributing all App Store, Play Store, GitHub, F-Droid. And now, if you were to add one more factor, like the problem with Accrescent that I ran into at that point was there is no easy way to automate this whole flow. And we discussed in the Accrescent developer as well. And I think as and when they provide a way for us to easily integrate newer updates, that's fine, because we don't want to break the current developer experience for making a release. Like making a release can't be a pain.
Right. Yeah.
The moment it becomes a pain, that we'll in our capacity start making fewer releases, and we don't want that overload at all right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then someone is asking, since you mentioned at some point we will again hire people and spend more money on development, which will mean cost going up. Will that also mean prices going up?
No, right. So right now we are breaking even, and the rate at which we are growing, there's definitely room for appraisals for the next couple of months for existing folks, and there will be more money left over to actually hire more folks. So whether we hire, it will be from our existing profits, and we don't intend to raise prices right now.
Right. Cool. Then I think we covered almost everything. There's one question left, which I think is maybe a nice question to end on. Is it's a kind of a inspirational question, I guess, or like asking for inspiration. Good luck. It's basically someone is stating that basically someone is asking, how can we believe in ourselves and our vision? They're asking like the team did with Ente when Google Photos was already a big player in terms of media storage and the space was already filled, yet the Ente team still went ahead and built Ente for such a long time. I guess, what was the inspiration? Is there anything that this guy can?
It's the personal problem, right, that I had, that I want to keep my photos safe, and I'm generally very sentimentally attached to the photos that I click. And I've grown up in a household where my dad used to click a lot of photos. So it is just purely sentimental, I would say. Right? So it's not a very rational way to go about building things. If that is what you're looking for, I don't really have a rational way of explaining why what you've done makes sense. But at the same time, there is, I think, sentimental about things, it inherently become more, you persevere more. And I think that is one of the core things I believe in, that if you actually just keep banging your head on something, at some point you'll make progress.
Yep.
So
that's
yeah, like again, not a great answer, but it is what it is.
It is the mindset that works here.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add, I was talking to somebody a few days back, and he was asking a similar question, that why are you choosing to make Ente when Google Photos, Apple Photos already exist? You will never be able to make a massive business out of it. What I answered was basically, one, there is an opportunity for every size of player in the market. So while the Google Photos and Apple Photos exist, and Image also exists, and Ente also exists, multiple other players also exist. I think it's a question of what scale of business you want to build, and not all businesses have to be VC investable, right? There are some businesses that can be made to grow sustainably. You just have to find your pocket of space in the market. Even if it's a small pocket of space, you can make a good, decent, sustainable business out of it. I don't think it's like rocket science to do it. You just have to set the right expectations with yourself in terms of what size of businesses will come out of it.
Yeah, that makes all sense. And it's also very interesting space to be in, right? Because in the end, it is also only two companies that are basically storing everything, and everyone clicks photos. So there's definitely room there.
Right. And like Cyril said, the problem is you don't necessarily have to grow perpetually.
No, not everybody has to be $1 billion or $1 trillion.
Right. But I think our proposition is to kind of try and exist perpetually.
Yes.
So that is very hard in itself. So
yeah. But when it comes to your photos, that's very worthwhile. But that's the same. Cool. I think that concludes this AMA. I think majority is still there after an hour and a half of listening to three guys talking way too fast. Thank you guys. That is a big compliment, I guess, or at least I'll look at it that way. This was a lot of fun. I think this is last year was the first year that we did this. Now 1 year further, and they haven't grown a bit. We're again doing the AMA. I think in general, this is maybe nice to have as a tradition for once every year. Definitely we'll come back and do this more often. And I think in general, this is just a nice moment to also show our appreciation for the community, right? And just state one more time how happy we are that we made this Discord community in the first place, and that so many people decided to join and hang out with us and share their feedback, because all of that has massively helped us and has massively helped Ente become what we are right now, and will also help get to where we want to be.
Right.
So thank you all.
Very grateful for like hanging out with us and being as kind as you have been. Right? I mean, I've been part of multiple communities. I've grown up on the internet in some sense, and I am very glad that the vibe that we have is what it is. So thank you.
Thank you. And chat, there are also some people saying thank you. I joined late, but loved the Q&A. Very sweet. Right. Okay, thank you guys. We'll be back next year and see you around in Discord.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.